Here's an area I believe that you can speak to, the numbers, the budget. We know that numbers don't lie, although liars can certainly use numbers. So, Assistant Secretary Combs, I want to ask, how much money do you believe the first lease sale in the Arctic Refuge will generate? That's just a number answer.
About $1 billion.
And I want to know what you base that estimate on, because it doesn't seem to line up with previous leases. Do you know what the average per acre bid for all lease sales since 1999 in the immediately adjacent National Petroleum Reserve was?
No, I do not.
The answer is $32.34 per acre. And do you know how much the last BLM lease sale in the Petroleum Reserve was?
No.
It was $11 per acre. So over a couple of decades, we've seen actually the number declining. The average bid has declined quite a bit. And so the next question is, if you were to offer the entire coastal plain of the Arctic Refuge for a lease sale, to get the $1 billion that you're projecting, how much would you have to receive on a per acre basis from that lease sale?
I'm sorry, I don't know the number of acres, therefore I cannot do the
It's a
arithmetic.
pretty easy calculation. If you divide 1.56 million acres, to get $1 billion, you'd need to get about $678 per acre. So here we have an $11 per acre record in the adjoining National Petroleum Reserve. And that's an area where we have data, where we actually have some infrastructure. We know what's there. We have none of that in the Arctic Refuge, and yet you are assuming something that's 60 times greater per acre in the Arctic Refuge, $678. What makes you think that this oil and gas play in a wildlife refuge is going to be so much better than the developed field next door and will reverse a 20-year downward trend in bid prices?
Well, that is a question that I will refer to the Bureau of Land Management because they will have done the necessary underlying analysis.
So you're unable to answer that question?
I do not have the underlying data.
All right. If there is, you may not know this one either, but I have to wonder as I look at this, if there's so much interest to justify this fanciful assumption in the Arctic Refuge lease sale, why not set a minimum bid, right? If it's 60 times more valuable than the neighboring field, why not set a minimum bid to make sure you get that value for the taxpayers?
That is certainly a suggestion that I will take from you back to the Bureau.
Would you agree a minimum bid to get the value you've promised in the Tax Act and in your budget? That's a good idea?
I will take that back to the Bureau because they're in the business of oil and gas exploration. I am not.